Good morning, good afternoon. Hi, everybody. It's wonderful to have you all of you here today again. And it's a pleasure to have such a wonderful speakers today as well with us. I would like to recall that today we will talk about proposals for a better restart and anthropological ecology. And we will have with us Daniele Pasquini to introduce us on the topic. And then we will have Mr. Ivo Ferriani, who is a former BOPS leader and board member of the International Olympic Committee. And we will have then the round table with Renata Simbril, which is the president of the LA 84 Foundation, Celestino Chichongue from Mozambique, from Escolas Ocurrentes, and then Jaime Fillol from Chile, former tennis player and president of the Fillol Foundation as well. So before we start, let's see the video summary of the past session we had about inclusive sport with Cristina, Alessandra Morelli, and Timothy Shriver. To welcome all of you here again in this day that we will have the opportunity to talk with three fantastic people about inclusive sport. As you know, the session of today talks about inclusive sport, an opportunity not to be missed. And I think it's a great opportunity, not also a challenge, but a great opportunity the pandemic has given us to talk about how not to lose this opportunity to include another approaches to have different point of views to restart sport in a different way, in a better way, putting the person at the center of sport, as we have mentioned in our past sessions.
I think that this generation, those of us that are here on this call today, and those of us that work in this field, have been given a challenge, not just by God, but I think by the human person. And that is to recognise that through the work that we're doing, it's a particular moment in time when change can occur. And we can all be witnesses to the potential of sport as a place of inclusion that welcomes the refugee, that welcomes the disabled person, that welcomes the athlete, no matter what their body shape and no matter how they want to share their sport. Sport is a place for everybody. It's time, but what's most exciting is that we're the ones to make the change. Thank you.
Sport can be the positive answer to the suffering of many, many years of walking towards safety, walking towards the desert, and walking and sometimes even sailing through a dangerous sea. I just launched some ideas. I won't take much of the time so that we have time for questions, but here are our kids. Sports here in Niger for UNHCR is at the center of my protection response. And I'm also glad to conclude and say that I was part also of the making of the UNHCR IOC refugee team that will compete, we hope soon, next year in Tokyo. Thank you very much.
Sport can create the encounter without blame, based on gift, to celebrate every single person in the human family. Nothing else that we have found can do that. I don't come to you to defend sport or argue for sport for any reason other than that I'm a cold-blooded seeker of the best means to make a difference. And this is the way to do it. I was trained as a teacher. I taught in public schools. I worked in child development. I worked amongst the mystics, in the literature of the mystics. I looked over and over again at the question of how the inner life is changed. For me, it's on the playing field.
Thank you, Simone and Creative for these summary videos that give us the opportunity to recall what we have been experiencing all these weeks. And now I would like to remind, before giving the word to Daniele Pasquini, that since it's our last meeting today, we will be talking about proposals for a better start. And I would like to encourage you again, all of you, to share with all the participants your personal point of regarding concrete proposals for the future of sport. And therefore, after the roundtable, in the usual moment offer for questions, also we would like to offer you the possibility to not just to make questions, but to present in a very concise way, maybe 1 minute, 1 minute and a half, some concrete, realistic, achievable proposals to start in a better way in the area of sport that is the part of your expertise. And now I would like to introduce Daniele Pasquini. Daniele Pasquini is married and a father of 2. He's graduated in mathematics in Milan, and since 2000 he's linked to the Centro Sportivo Italiano, the Italian Sportive Center, holding positions within the National Directorate and the National Council. He is the president of the Roman Committee of the Italian Sports Center since 2011. And just for those who don't know about what is the Italian Sports Center, it's like a federation in Italy that has more than 13,000 sport associations and over 1 million of members. He is also the president of the John Paul II Foundation for Sport since last year. Today that we celebrate the feast of St. John Paul II, it's also a great moment to have Daniele with us. The John Paul II Foundation for Sport was founded in 2008 with the aim of promoting the educational values of sport, following the principles and guidelines of Pope John Paul II, with a special attention to young people. And the foundation operates on two major fronts: the promotion of the educational places, the educational values of sport through the revival of the parishes and the oratories, like Don Bosco used to do, and the study and organization of major cultural and educational events related to sport and pastoral ministry. And lastly, I would like to thank you, Daniele, especially for all the help he has given and all the work he has done on the organization of this webinar series, because without him, it would have been very, very difficult to organize this webinar. So Daniele, thank you very much, and to you the word.
Oh, Santiago, I have to thank you and the dicastery of Laity, Family and Life for this opportunity to think about sport during and after COVID. I go to share my screen. Please tell me if you see the screen. Do you see the screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay,
we can see it.
okay,
yes.
we can start. Okay. In my introduction to this webinar, I will focus on 3 topics. The first one is an analysis of the context. The second one is the situation of sport during the pandemic. And the last one is the need to rethink the future of sport. Okay, Pope Francis some years ago said that we are living in a time that is not only an era of changes, but it is the change of an era. The modern era is finishing and a new time is starting, the post-modernity. Also, Pope Benedict XVI, during a meeting with the Roman clergy in preparation for Christmas of 2010, said that this century is similar to the end of the ancient Roman Empire, when the ancient era was finishing and the Middle Age had not yet started. Moreover, today we are living during the COVID pandemic. And COVID is not the cause of this change, but probably it is a consequence. And surely it is an accelerator of the change. In few months, all the people all around the world had to face a new way of life, a new kind of social relationship. The pandemic is either a menace for our lifestyle or a window open to the future that could let us to understand which are the new categories of the future. After COVID emergency, we will come back to live normally, but surely our lifestyle will be changed. And sport, what's happening to sport? Modern sport has arrived at the top of its success after a continuous growth. This development brings it to hubris, an excess of success that hides a lot of deviations. The Vatican sport document, Give the Best of Yourself, says that there are some deviations and serious risks in the sport system. The debasement of the body, doping, corruption, and violence of supporters. That risks that can be understood to be the result of an unrestrained orientation towards success and enormous economical and political interests emanating from sporting competitions. However, the sport system appears to go on. Sport is structured in a system built to be strong and hardy. It has survived all shocks like world wars, economic crisis, terrorism. But the COVID shock is something different because it puts in evidence that the sport system is not standalone, is not waterproof, but is fragile. For the first time, sport isn't something positive, healthy, and helpful for people. But it is poised like a big problem because of the pandemic diffusion. In a lot of countries, sport was and is locked down or strongly limited. We know that this situation is producing a terrible crisis to the sport system. And the sport is trying to react to the evil of COVID with its power of resilience. Sport is trying to make itself safe and to live as normal as possible. The goal, when the COVID pandemic will be overcome, is to come back to where were we before. However, are we sure that it's good to come back as before? Are we sure? Do you really want to come back to a sport system that was sick? Pope Francis said us that we cannot think of being healthy in a sick world. So it would be the same in sport. We have to go beyond the strategy of resilience, to go beyond the strategy of resilience. Because the goal of sport shouldn't be to come back as before. We have to try to find a new way for sport, to become better than before. The change of era asks us to change also sport. Sport has to change, otherwise it will appear old in a new era that is coming. I try to explain what I mean using a concept of anti-fragility that was created by Nassim Nicholas Taleb in 2013. Taleb is a Libyan philosopher and mathematician who now lives in the United States. Anti-fragility is something that goes beyond resilience. Something resilience is hard, suffers, but resists to shocks, coming back the same as before. Instead, something anti-fragile feeds on changes, feeds on uncertain contexts, feeds on crises, to develop, to change itself, to adapt itself to new contexts. It's strongly connected to the context and it tries to be a linked part of a bigger body. For example, an anti-fragile system is DNA. What does it mean that sport should be anti-fragile? Does it mean that we have to change the sport system? No, I don't think so. But it means that we need a new vision that lets sport be anti-fragile, that lets it find a new role in the next social system. We don't have to kill or reduce the sport system. We don't have. But we need to change his scale of values, a new hierarchy of priorities, a new balance between show business and the grassroots activities. The church has been interested in sports since it was born. And I think that the church has a vision and also a responsibility to rethink the future of sport. Pope Francis invites us to adopt a new anthropological ecology in his encyclical Laudato Si. There can be no ecology without an adequate anthropology. He offers new categories to think of the future, that are categories that go beyond ecology as a movement to save creation, and that can help us also to rethink sport, to rethink an anthropological ecology through sport. Laudato Si offers a vision that is anti-fragile. More than resilience, that means try to live as before. The Pope invites us to an anthropological conversion. We will have to be new wine in new wineskins. The church can contribute to rethinking the future of sport, because in sport it has an anthropological vision and also a lot of best practice of anti-fragility. So I want to thank again the dicastery, because these webinars mean that the church wants to take field and to play this match. Thank you, Santiago.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Daniele, for this introduction. And now I would like to give the word to Ivo Ferriani. Mr. Ivo Ferriani is from Turin, class 1960. And when he was 27 years old, he already participated in his first Winter Olympics in Calgary in 1988. He had a degree in physical education. And after the end of his career, he became coach until 2002, leading first the Italian, then the French, and the Canadian national teams of bobsledding, winning 3 world medals and the Olympic bronze with France in Nagano in 1998. And from 2002 onwards, he moved on to a managerial career, first in Italy, in the Italian Winter Sports Federation. And then since 2010, he is the president of the International Bobsleigh and Skeleton Federation. Also, he is member of the International Olympic Committee since 2016. And he's member of an executive member of the board of the International Olympic Committee since 2018. And before giving you the word, Mr. Ferriani, I would like to thank you for being here and also to say to you congratulations, because a little friend of mine told me about your recent marriage. So my warmest and deepest congratulations, and thank you, because since you got married last week, it's also an effort, an extra effort to being with us today. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Santiago. Can you hear me? Yeah, I think so, right?
Yes.
Perfect. So thank you, because for me it's an honor to be here. And then please, I'm not Mr. Friani, I'm Ivo. I'm one of us, because it's a long story, but at the end of the story, I'm a person trying to do the best every day. And me, I'm a product of the oratory. I was in my parish, San Francesco d'Assisi. So in San Francisco, we have some liaison with the actual Pope, and then I'm very committed to. Therefore, I said, I'm a normal person, and today I try to put some point in the paper, but at the end of the story, everything moving up, and then I want to make a particular introduction. So, and what's happened for me today, that I receive a negative test from COVID, and tomorrow I will fly to China. Today, I enjoy the fact that tomorrow I will travel again after many, many months of lockdown and limitation on the travel. So it's one of the many things we have to live in this moment. So, and then the theme today, the theme is how we can do for a better start. I'm not so intelligent to have a solution, but I try to provoke some discussion, because I'm a positive person, always optimist, and then I think we have to learn something from this experience. So things was for us absolutely achieved, and every day ready in our table cannot be like before. It can be just different in the future, because we was sure about tomorrow morning I will find my car ready to go, and then I will be free to go everywhere with anyone. So today is not like that. So it's something to reshape our life, because our way to think. And I can meet people. I can meet people, but with some attention restriction. So I can meet people, but I have to put respect on what I do with them, not just to protect myself, but for protect them. So a lot of things happen in 1 year that we was not ready, because no one have so huge fantasy to realize something like that can happen. And sport also have to reshape their way to think. And me, as a member, as a president of the International Federation, every day I have to think about what we can do tomorrow. You know, it's not easy, because today we have to resist. Daniele spoke about resilience or resiliency. We have to resist in this moment, and then try to use this time to be prepared for a better time, for sure, but for a different time. So it's not easy, because we was also used to have everything for sport, everything from the event and so much, and we think too much to the top, to the peak, you know, and then everyone wanna be the big guy, can win everything, can gain a lot of money. That's one of the points. But many of the times we lose the pleasure to enjoy the sport point. And this is something we have to come back. So what we are ready to do also with the IOC to rethink, and with my federation already before, because I don't want to say I was so smart to think of that before, but you know, because being part and be president of a relatively small federation compared to other federations, we have to be flexible, we have to be chameleon and try to be different than the other one, you know. And I always try to use our small, let me say, economical capacity also in the way to be creative. And so I try to avoid what was not necessary. And then speaking also in the IUC, I always was let me say, a fan of the reduction of the redundancy. And I was very happy when President Bach is coming out with one very important word: frugal games. And it's a good message because, you know, we can do what we want in the future. We can come back, I'm not sure. We can come back to rethinking the sport, but the way to think the future is to be frugal. I agree the fact that we are at the end of, like the end of ancient Roman Empire, and we are in the postmodern era. I fully agree that, because we was used to have everything. It was too rich sometimes, you know, we didn't appreciate anymore what we had. So now we have to come back to the essence. And I think we have to quit what is nice to have, but it's important to be focused in what is necessary to have. And we have to work with the new generation to work on the basis of the inclusion. So teach them just to include the other people, to understand how much important is to be related to other people, to include other people, to have the team spirit, to accept other people to come with us. You know, it's not easy, but the frugal games for the Olympic Games, a frugal sport future, I think is one of the way to read our future. And then the best way to think about our future is write already some rules regarding that. I have a lot of points wrote in my table, but important is to understand that we have to analyze what's happened now. You see, for example, football. Football is one, in Europe at least, one of the most important sport in terms of audience, in terms of economy, and so on. And then before, if they don't have at least the double of player they have in the field, they cannot play. Today, they can play also with just 13 from 11 player, 13 global team players. And the results are almost the same. So that's something related to the frugal sport, you know. Come back to rationality, come back with the value of the person, come back with the value of the thing we have. And I think it's something to learn and then to teach our kids too, you know, because I think for many years we gave too much, but in the superficial way, and we don't give too much attention to our kids. So we can spend enough time with them. And the lockdown was a way to learn how to stay with the family, how to understand how important is the family, how important are our grandparents, how to respect them, how to protect them. And the sport can be a good solution for that, because we teach discipline, word sometimes not very well accepted, but discipline is a self-discipline. I have to discipline myself in the term to protect the other people, to respect the other people, to include the other people, to work with them, to wait for them, you know, not just run forward and then who cares if somebody is behind me or not. So inclusive things have to be intended like waiting for the people, listening for the people, you know, and then an athlete is able to learn about what the coach have to say. And regarding coaching, I come with a Catholic education. We have our fathers that teach us how to do it, you know, and then they are the first coach we had in our life. So coaching mean driving people is important. It's important because you have to move everything and everyone to the right direction. So, and accept to lose, because we cannot win every time. I was a good example. I was Olympian, but I didn't win as an athlete a big competition. I didn't win a gold medal or some medal at the Olympics. But it's important to understand that it's necessary to be a big group to make everyone important. So is accept the other. Also the people that are not the top athletes. You know? Me, I represent the normal athletes. And the life is full of normal athletes and normal people. We don't have just the genius, the top politician or so on. We have people that every day compete for a normal life. Sport can help the people to understand that we have to, to compete every day with the self-discipline to make our life better, to make our family life better, to accept the other people, to accept the difference from other people, because this is very important. Because I make always the example, if you go in any place in the world and you put kids coming from any kind of nation, of nationality or culture and so on, and 10, 15 kids, doesn't matter how many. You put a ball in between them, in 10 minutes, they will already put in place two teams to play football, because they don't care. The important thing is to have a team and work together. Somebody will play forward, somebody in the back, but they will play together because they know it's necessary to be together to work. So we have to be chameleon, prepare the future, and then understand that nothing will be like before. Frugal games mean also frugal society. We have to understand what is necessary. And also we have to understand we was putting down from a virus, not a big enemy. You can see the power and so on. It's something you cannot see. And also we are so fragile, like fragile is our health. So we have to protect the nature, protect the environment, because we are that. If you don't protect the health, the environment, we don't protect ourselves. So we have to respect everything and then teach our kids, ourselves to be respectful. Again, resilient, but it's important also to reshape our life and then, move forward. I have another word, ready to slide into the future, because the future is in front of us. I don't have a solution, but for sure, frugality is the way to think our future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivo. Thank you very much for your words. I think that we agree with so many ideas you share, and I hope that maybe we can talk more about it during the discussion with all the participants. But I would like to underline what we have been saying in the past sessions regarding the pleasure to enjoy sports, the importance not to forget that we play sports to play, for the joy of play, and not only to compete. And also this idea you mentioned more than once about the frugality, to come back to rationality, because maybe we lost the side or the dimension of the reality sometimes, especially when we talk about big events and mass events related to sports. Now, allow me to start with the roundtable. I would like to explain a little bit. We decided to finish these webinar sessions with the roundtable because we wanted to offer different initiatives, examples that are already creating a change in the world, no matter if these initiatives are big or have a big or small impact on a short or long term in our societies. But we wanted to just take one example. It doesn't mean that these are better or worse than others. It's just an example. We thank our speakers or panelists for being today with us, because we will try with their explanations to find some keywords about what we have been talking these sessions about, and also to try to find like keywords to put in practice. How could be this restart of sport in the future after the pandemic. And let me start with our first speaker, which is Renata Simbril. Ms. Simbril is married and is a mother of two, is a third generation Angelino. She earned a bachelor's degree in urban studies in Loyola Marymount University, and has a master's degree in real estate development from the University of Southern California. She's the president and the CEO of Los Angeles 84 Foundation, which is a legacy of the 1984 Los Angeles Olympic Summer Games. And talking about Renata is talk about a person that has been always linked to sport and also committed to the people. As she has combined her passion of sport, working for institutions like the Los Angeles Dodgers, and also during her public service, working as deputy mayor for economic development and housing, where she worked to help to rebuild communities in South Los Angeles, in the periphery of Los Angeles after the civil unrest in 1992. But before giving the word to Renata, if you agree, Renata, I would like to show this video you recently published.
Well, Santiago, if I might, would you perhaps be able to show that at the end of my remarks?
Of course. Yes, sure.
Wonderful. Thank you so
much. Whenever you want, the word is yours.
Well, thank you. And good afternoon, good day, and good morning for those who are like me on the West Coast. And I'd like to start with just God's blessings to each and every one of you, that he continues to watch over you and your families and keep you safe and healthy. And a thank you for the opportunity. I'm grateful to be able to share in some work here in the United States on how we see inclusion in a post-COVID world of sport. As Santiago mentioned, the L84 Foundation was created with the share of the Southern California Olympic Games surplus. And for more than 35 years, we've helped to transform young lives through sports. And our work has demonstrated the impact that sports can have and what we can do through sports. And it's not the dollars that we've invested over that 35-year period of time, the sports knowledge we've pioneered and disseminated, or even the millions of youth we've served that excites us most. It's in knowing that we unlock the potential I can't even talk this morning, it's too early and I've only had one cup of coffee. But what excites us most is in knowing that we unlock the potential that would otherwise go overlooked or undeveloped. It's guiding coaches to go cultivate the best in their young athletes. It's providing fresh insight into the most pressing issues in youth sport and strengthening the ties between generations and communities. And working with our nonprofit NGO organizations, our strategic corporate partners, professional sports teams and leagues, we enable youth to become athletes and athletes to become educated, responsible, resourceful citizens who are well prepared to face the immense challenges of life, whether or not that's on and off the field. And we believe deeply that sport is inherently good and that sport can do good. Playing sports make people healthier in mind, body, and spirit. Sport provides us one of the best vehicles to build mental and physical endurance. And sports brings people together, brings communities together, be it watching a sporting match or playing together on a community pitch or basketball court. And sports can serve to make the world a more involved, inclusive, and inspired place that helps engender tolerance, offers healthy competition and learning on how to join and compete with people from different cultures, backgrounds, and abilities. And with all the challenges and issues currently impacting society, both here in the United States and abroad, particularly with the lack of political decorum, business, political, and sports corruption at its highest level, and exposure here in the United States of our history of racial injustice and rampant inequality against Black communities exposed on the global stage. Harnessing the power of sports to bring justice and fairness back to society is at its apex. And this is our moment for each of us to do as Pope Francis calls upon us to do, to live like you play. and in the process, inspire our neighbors and our communities to do the same. And sports for us and the communities that we serve isn't just a nice to have, it's a must have. It brings youth together in a positive way, and it is saving lives. And sport is about participation, yes. Sport is about having fun, yes. But sport is also about the power to drive positive change for the individual, for our community, and for our society. And we use the power of sport to help others. We share the benefits of sport to empower those who are poor and disadvantaged. We use sport to build trust and understanding. Respect your opponent. Through sport, understand them and their culture more deeply. Through sport, we demonstrate that what binds us is more powerful than what divides us, both on and off the field of play. And we make sure that sports is for all. And with our partnership with the Play Equity Fund, we do all we can to help level the playing field so that everyone can take part in sport. Sport has the power to transform lives and build character, learn graciousness in victory and perspective in defeat, and apply these values youth learn in sport to help youth excel in life. And sport has the power to help us make the most of ourselves and in the process those around us. We inspire our community to play in the knowledge that they can revitalize you physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. But the lack of equal access or inclusion for all kids to play is a crisis hiding in plain sight. And certainly the challenges that we face closer to home are not as severe as other parts of the world, but our challenges are nonetheless significant for those who experience them every day. And just by one example, in the United States, Los Angeles is a study in contrast. It is known throughout the world as a center of wealth, entertainment, sports, and glamour. But the region's successes do not include all residents. One in four children live in poverty. That's approximately 15 million youth across the United States. 1 in 4 teens drop out of high school, the majority of them youth of color, and only about half of our youth are in a healthy weight zone. 80% of our youth don't obtain the recommended amount of exercise each week, and the groups least likely to participate in sports here in the United States are girls, kids of color, and those from low-income households. And in addition, years of disastrous funding decisions, budget cuts, and poor policies have eliminated many of our sports from many of our public schools. And we're certainly seeing a connection between the COVID-19 crisis and these health conditions that we find in our communities. And as I said, this is a crisis hiding in plain sight, and this inequity is occurring. All the while, the pay-to-play model in the United States for youth sports has grown to a $19 billion industry. And the COVID-19 health pandemic has only widened the gap between those who are included in sport and those who are not. But we have faith that eventually we will pull through this global pandemic together, and the distance that COVID-19 restrictions have created will ease. We also have faith that's matched by our eagerness for the return of sports being played safely and without restriction. However, we are in no rush to return to the old model, or the old normal, I should say, of youth sports. Through our involvement in diverse communities and working closely with the issues that impact youth sports, we recognize the growing gap between children who can freely participate in sport and those who cannot is a social justice issue. And history reminds us that the play equity gap, that dramatic distance between families who can afford the pay-to-play model and those multitudes of kids who cannot, will invariably widen unless we seize this moment to reimagine the youth sports model. Our hope is that the suffering that this health crisis and the economic recession it is creating nationwide helps to provoke a reboot for youth sports in America. And we all know this. Decades of research show that sports participation is closely associated with a range of positive social, educational, and health outcomes for young people. Kids who play sports have higher GPAs, they stay in school, and they graduate. Sport and structured play and movement can also help reduce stress and improve mental health. And the importance of play equity to support kids and the community's demands finding sustainable solution. And that's why we created the Play Equity Fund, a 501c3 charitable partner, as a cornerstone of this movement. As an organization, we are focused on working together with other actors in our community to drive collective impact. A collaboration of our sport-based youth development ecosystem, our professional sports teams, corporate brands, working closely to close the play equity gap together. And I said, in partnership with with these actors and our partners, throughout the United States, we fund and scale effective and impactful programs, including school-based sports and social justice programs that engage young kids, but then make connections to pathways to lifelong well-being. We invest in research and increased data collection, evaluation, assessment, and information sharing to the world, to whoever needs to receive it, to enlighten everyone on how to join our movement to help advance long-term solutions. And when I say our movement, I mean our collective movement globally. Where can they find opportunities to get involved and to get engaged? But first, it's a matter of bringing that information to the forefront. On the institutional level, we're providing leadership nationally to support practitioners, advocates, policymakers, and organizations that are working to drive policies and system changes that we believe will have a long-term impact that will change and arrest this play equity gap that we see has continued to grow over the 35 years that the L84 Foundation has been at this work. We support those who are identifying new possibilities, how there might be done, researching emerging trends, and challenging the status quo. I think everyone in this call this morning realizes that children need an environment that will help them grow, to explore, to play, and to achieve their full potential. Our communities need help in fighting a crisis, as sport is not available as it once was, nor are the life benefits that organized sporting structured play provides. So the L84 Foundation and our partners, the Play Equity Fund, are here to nurture, build, and create opportunities for equal access for all children. And we stand ready to join with others who share in this common goal. So that concludes my remarks. Santiago, if you might be able to tee up the video, I would appreciate that.
Yes, thank you very much. 1 second. Okay. Simone, I think the sound is missing. Let's try again. We are experiencing some problems with the video. Just 1 second. Let's see if we can solve it.
You wouldn't step in the ring with an arm tied behind your back. You wouldn't step to the plate with 2 strikes. You wouldn't start a game down by 14 points. That wouldn't be fair. In life, like sports, fairness should be fundamental. But for most kids of color and families, life is not fair. 15 million youth live in poverty in the U.S. Kids of color are twice as likely to live without enough park space. And schools in underserved neighborhoods are defunding sports programs. How can our children play fair if they can't play at all? Change starts with Play Equity, a social justice movement to bring sports to kids left behind by the system. Sports breaks down barriers, improves kids' health, academics, and boosts self-esteem. Change communities for good, one child at a time. There's room for hope. Let's give all kids the vital human right to play. No child should start from behind. Never again. Join the Play Equity movement. Spread the word. Donate. Let's level the playing field together.
Thank you. Thank you, Renata. Thank you very much for your presence and your words. I think it's very important what you are doing with the LA Foundation. And I would remark what you said to try to drive a positive change and to use sport to help others, to help them to especially children to grow physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually in a safe environment. I think it's very important, and inclusion starts from each one of us. I think that we have to, and the word of equity. I think it's very it's really important not to confuse with the equality, because we have to give more as that we have received more, and also to ask more to those who can give more in a team, in the group. The importance of also, as you said at the end, to form the formators, to make this long shot possible. And yeah, I have myself one question later for the discussion, if it's possible. But before, I would like to give the word to the next speaker, which is Celestino Chichongwe. Celestino Chichongwe is the sports coordinator of Escolas Ocurrentes in Mozambique. Unfortunately, Celestino is having some technical problems right now, but with us there is Juan Fresno, which is the general coordinator of Escolas Ocurrentes in Mozambique. Juan, I don't know if you can hear us.
I do, yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Hi, Juan. Juan is from Argentina, but he is the general coordinator of Escolas Ocurrentes in Mozambique. And as I said, because of some technical problems in the village where Celestino works, he's not going to be able to be with us, but he has doing a big effort. He has sent us a video. So let's see the video together, and maybe we can continue talking with Juan a little bit about what Escolas Ocurrentes is doing in Mozambique through sports for the development of the children and in a safe environment, as we were saying with Renata, and also to form in values through sport to make a better society. So let's see the testimonial of Celestino, and then we will continue talking with Juan.
Olá, eu sou Celestino de Moçambique. Eu venho trabalhando com a Fundação Pontifícia Escolas Ocorrentes desde fevereiro de 2018. Gostaria de agradecer, em primeiro lugar, a iniciativa do nosso querido Papa Francisco de criar um caminho da busca pela paz através do desporto. Eu sou formador de futebol na comunidade de Escumo, uma comunidade muito humilde e muito carenciada também, onde muitos jovens e crianças já tinham perdido o sentido da vida e se jogavam nas bebedeiras e outras brincadeiras que não ajudam. Muitos jovens deixavam de estudar, as mulheres, meninas, porque nem são mulheres, iam aos lares muito cedo Outros consumiam abusadamente as bebidas alcoólicas. Mas graças ao futebol já começou a haver mudanças. Já vejo jovens que deixavam de estudar a aderir em massa às escolas, meninas bem motivadas em continuar com os estudos do que correr para o lar, e crianças a verem uma luz promissora pela frente. Por isso, eu digo, o futebol foi uma bênção para a nossa comunidade. Com os valores transmitidos no programa Futebol, jovens e crianças passam a se identificar naquilo que é positivo, esforçam-se mais e, acima de tudo, eles começam a ver ou a ter esperança de uma vida melhor. Eu vejo muitos preconceitos já superados, onde os homens não aceitavam jogar com as mulheres, mas hoje em dia há de ver com o programa Futebol meninos e meninas a jogarem e a se alegrarem com isso. Isso é um bom passo para a nossa comunidade. Bom, não seria fácil enumerar todos os ganhos que o programa Futebol nos trouxe. Agora eu vou falar um pouco daquilo que é a minha experiência pessoal no futebol. Eu adquiri o estatuto de formador de formadores. É uma honra para mim poder formar outros formadores que poderão difundir os valores que o futebol nos transmite a muitas pessoas, muitas crianças, jovens e adultos, que da minha formação já formei outros colegas professores, jovens voluntários das igrejas e amigos. Eu volto a agradecer mais uma vez a essa iniciativa do Papa Francisco, pois o futebol vem para nos unir. Nós já podemos celebrar com várias identidades, etnias, gêneros e muito mais. Futebol é mais que um programa educativo que transmite valores morais da sociedade. Ele é um caminho para um futuro melhor. Por isso digo, viva as escolas, viva o futebol. Obrigado.
Thank you, Celestino, for this testimonial. For those who don't know about Escolas Ocurrentes is an international organization, a pontifical foundation, present in the 5 continents through its extensive educational networks. And its mission is to create the culture of encounter, as Pope Francis, when he was Archbishop of Buenos Aires, wanted to say, by bringing young people together from diverse backgrounds in an education experience that generates understanding across the world. And as I said, we have with us Juan Fresno, who is the general coordinator of Escolas Ocurrentes in Mozambique. And I want to follow the testimony of Celestino, asking you about how this football values program, football, has helped to form children and young people to be better and to create a better society.
Great, thank you. First of all, I would like to thank the dicastery for this space to share our experience. And as you said, Pope Francis gave us a mission to promote the culture of encounter within the world of education. And he always encourages us to promote an education that is that integrates the language of the head, the language of the heart, and the language of the hands, meaning not only content, the language of the head, but also values and habits, right? And in sports, we work through art, sports, and technology. But sports are very important because they do integrate the language of the head, of the heart, and in the case of football, of the feet, right? But it helps us a lot to work, especially to work as a team and with the emotions of the children and the youth. So I would like to share with you a few features about, especially the values that we like to to share, to promote through football, and the first results of a research that is in progress. Because now that we cannot do the workshop with the children because of the pandemic, we have been conducting a research with the professors and the trainers, football trainers, to see the impact, to measure the social impact of our work. Because we have been working in Mozambique, firstly in parishes, but then with schools since 2017 and 2018 until now. But first of all, the features I would like to share with you, the main values that we promote through games and a certain exercise. That would be respect, teamwork, honesty, resilience, effort, spirit of solidarity, and identity. So through different exercises, we try the children to work as a team always, not as individuals only. And we don't put the efforts in the techniques, but in the human values. And what we discovered with this research, it was an inquiry that we made with the professors. We asked them, since you began working with the children in 2017 or 2018 until now, what changes did you see regarding these values in the children that you work with? And they had to measure at the beginning from 1 to 10, and today from 1 to 10. That is why we have this outcome. Great, thank you. And the improvement, you will see that in some cases could be more than 100 because of this, that they had to choose from 1 to 10. And if the beginning was maybe 2 and it is 6, it's more than 100. So that's why we have this. But with all the work in these last 2 or 3 years, we saw in a general, the general dimensions that are the values, 77.4 more respect, teamwork more than 100, 103, honesty 96 and 56 percent, more resilience 100%, a great advantage in effort, and the spirit of solidarity. That spirit of solidarity is this not playing only as individuals, but for example, one of the exercises is that when one player scores a goal, he cannot score the next one because all of the other players should score a goal before this player can score a goal again. And this kind of exercises to work as a team. And then identity, that it is about the value in the neighborhood or the group of friends, etc. And just yes, to see the features of some of the 3 dimensions, what were the questions specifically. We can see that, for example, effort was regarding the technical and motor skills, the contribution of personal talent for the benefit of the team, the capacity for promoting active participation of peers, the perseverance in achieving objectives. You can see the numbers. Maybe we can see quickly the next one. Resilience, the desire to improve of each children, of each kid. Tolerance to frustration, which is very important for emotions. Ability to learn from mistakes, and motivation. And the last one, teamwork. These are all the examples. We have asked about the ability to work in a team, of help others in distress within the match, the fall in the discrimination on the basis of the ability, motor skills, race, or sex, and ball passing ability considering roles within the team. So these are some of the values that we like to promote through these games and exercises. As you see, they are human values and also Christian values, but all in all, they help to build universal fraternity, right? That's why I think the schools are interested also in having this formation and having the teachers and trainers, the teachers of physical education also train in football. So we're on time. That is what I wanted to present, these features and these outcomes that we are seeing, especially for Mozambique, so that you can have an idea of how we work and what are our goals.
Thank you, Juan. I apologize again for not being able to have with us Celestino, and he was very sorry that we tried these days to fix the connection, but it was very difficult. But I think it was very interesting to have an experience from Mozambique itself, a country that has had so many difficulties, so many challenges that is facing still nowadays, and how can sport is working together with many different institutions to help to make a better society and to rebuild the the communities inside the country. And to finish with the roundtable, I would like to introduce Jaime Fillol. Jaime Fillol, class 1946, is a tennis player. Normally when you see on the Wikipedia, they say he's a former tennis player, but I can tell you he still is a tennis player. Not only that, he used to play at an elite level in the 60s and the 70s. Is known as one of the best tennis players from his country. He reached to be number 14th at the ATP rankings, and in his career he won 22 titles, 6 singles and 16 doubles. In addition, Jaime Fillol was a founding member and one of the first ATP presidents. He's also a member of the University of Miami Hall of Fame. He's also a doctor in physical education. He has been dean of the faculty of physical education in Chile. He's one of the best tennis players in his country. He was also a member of the 1975 Davis Cup team, where they arrived to the finals, losing against Italy. And also he has been devoted to promote charities through tennis in his country. With his experience, he's a family full of tennis players, and he has been devoted to help children to grow and to be able to play in a safe environment in the peripheries of Santiago de Chile mainly. So Jaime, whenever you want, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Santiago. Thank you very much. I appreciate you giving me the degree of a doctor. I'm just a licenciado, pero I realize that mainly you've asked me to participate, and I because of my life experiences and probably my testimonies, and to make a good testimony, I usually like to show lots of pictures, and I'm gonna go through my presentation with pictures. Thank you to the Office of Laity, Family and Life to give me this opportunity to be with you throughout the whole seminary. So many beautiful things have been said, and very important, I believe, for the future of the church, very important for humanity, really, and important that you have called us to start looking at what should be doing next, because from what I hear, the contribution that sports has in society for humanity is huge, for all of us recognized. But we need, as you have promoted, we need to get together. We need to maybe create a model. We need to have a presence where we don't let the culture of today to overpower us, overpower over the real means and values of sports. Sports, I believe everybody's seeing this. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, yes.
Oh, great. Right. Sports has always been an important means of communication. I will present a comparison as to what I lived and what I see today. Here you see 4 pictures that talk about the roots of sports and its intrinsic values. The purpose of these pictures is to show, first, that we are aware of the social value of sports, and at the same time, we are aware that society is in need of a change towards a better human ecology. This movement has to be sustainable in time to achieve a positive result. Sports is a very appropriate means to lead in this project, because as you see in the pictures, sports can be open and flexible to the context in which it's being played, and the game adapts to the place and its community. Just as like scholars presented by Señor Fresno explained how they adapted to evaluate the different values that they're promoting. We also see that sports embodies the mind, body, and soul, and it enhances social relationships, its relation with nature and with God, the Creator. Our focus should be to return to the roots and intrinsic values of sports. Tennis should be seen as only a tool to attract and motivate integral education. Through it, we experience the virtues and values that contribute to our ecology. In my experience, having become a tennis player gave me the opportunity to meet different people and their cultures. Tennis was the vehicle that connected me with the immense diversity of God's creation and allowed me to be part of it. Living life and everything around it was bigger than tennis. I enjoyed all that surrounds the world of tennis, meeting people, representing my country and university. I enjoyed competing as I recognized it as a game. It did not have more value than that. The top athletes were at that time part of the world and its reality. In this picture, you see a very conflicted situation in that time. This is Ellis Park Tennis Stadium in Johannesburg, 1967. You can see apartheid and what South Africa was living at the moment. Here you can see up high in the middle of the picture, a tower where the Black audience had to sit in a separate and an uncomfortable place. And curiously, just below it, there is a sign advertisement of Black and White, a Scotch whiskey. I am grateful to have experienced this historical moment in South Africa. I knew about apartheid, but I never really got to experience it until this moment. During the South African Open, we used to stay with families, and the family that received my wife and I took us to Mass in Soweto. At that time, whites were not allowed to pass with the permission, not allowed to pass Fortunately, with the permission of an Italian missionary priest, we were able to celebrate Mass with the segregated Black community. It was an amazing experience and one that my wife and I will never forget. My opponent then was also my friend and teammate. I never considered him as a rival. I share my tennis and life experiences with other players. As shown in the pictures, for example, you can see there Ken Roswell and well, other top players of the time. With Ken Roswell, I became good friends and we used to practice many times. And he showed me what I call the Roswell Method. The Roswell Method was very simple. Normally, tennis players hit balls back and forth, trying to get the feel of the ball and never really get down to the real thing, which it is to play, not with Roswell. Roswell spent maybe 10 minutes with me hitting, and then all of a sudden he decided to just serve the first shot and started playing a point against me. Immediately I learned and I realized what he considered was the most important thing, which it was to play. As athletes, we shared methods. We were part of each other's personal lives. To this day, I receive many Christmas cards from my fellow teammates, opponents, and friends. Today's reality shows the players secluded and with tight schedule. They are protected in a closed environment. They have become superstars, where they are picked up at the airport by personal drivers and then moved from the hotel to the club and barely visit or interact with the city they are in, missing out the connection with different people and their culture. Here are two pictures of the reality of the groups that contain the stars. Dominic Thiem with his group, Rafael Nadal with his group. We also see that today there are standardized methods of training, eliminating and reducing creativity, initiative, and individual learning. Plus, the player is missing out on an integral education. Today, we see winning as a means to an end. Many players seem not to be playing to enjoy the game. Instead, they are playing to obtain material benefits, prize money, popularity, winning medals, becoming more important. How did this happen? Modern culture and its materialism has affected the ecology of the sports system, where technology and science plays, in my opinion, a disruptive role. As an example, we have doping, equipment that enhances performance, controlled nutrition, and tennis, it is a winning goal. In schools, it is preparing for admission tests. At work, it is receiving a bonus at the end of the year, etc. Here we have a top Italian player, Fabio Fognini, playing in the ATP event in Chile, being part of an example of or a model of integration of the different estimates or different areas that we need to maybe project and present as a model, as an idea of integrity in the support of values. We must defend the social value of sports against individualism and materialism so that players can realize the opportunity they have to connect with the world. We must create a model that emphasizes on the intrinsic benefits of the individual and the community instead of focusing on the economical, ideological, and political ideas. For this to be sustainable in time, we need to generate networks with other institutions, both private and public, institutions with the government, schools, local communities, universities, and clubs, all with a common message, a message of social value, social responsibility, and integral education. Here is a short clip of an activity we did, as I mentioned before, in Chile, included not only Fabio, but Santiago Giraldo and my grandson, Nicolas Jarry. I hope the video can be played properly and the technology doesn't fail me. But the important thing, even if you don't get the sound, you can see the images and read what Santiago Giraldo has to say. And to conclude, before concluding, I'd like to say that I was really motivated to hear Daniele with his presentation. I hope we can, together with him, continue grow. I think the Catholic Church has a very possible and very factible, something that can be done to unite all the efforts that the different organizations, foundations, different clubs, federations, Olympics movement, we can put the focus, and the Juan Pablo II Foundation can lead us in that. I think the most important thing to create sustainability in a model, in the purpose where the top athlete or the professional game doesn't end up destroying the values of the sports. We need to get organized and communicate the essence of sports and its values. Thank you very much, Santiago, and everybody for listening.
Thank you, Jaime. Thank you very much. I think that we have still some time to talk with the speakers, with all the participants, to hear also different proposals we can share together. I would like to remind that if anyone wants to make a question or to make a contribution, you can write me in the chat privately or raise your hand, and I will write on the people in order of appearance, so I can give you the word. In the meantime, I would like to start asking one question to Renata. There's one participant who asked, Dan Moynihan from Canada asks, when we are thinking about the anthropological understanding of who we become through sport, how might we consider sport as a gateway to relationship with an adult community who can model and inspire? For some, due to challenges of equity, the eye of the needle they could pass through is inaccessible.
Oh, no, thank you, Dan, for the question. Dan is a good friend from our Sport at the Service of Humanity days, so I appreciate the question. And I think it's an essential one in terms of it's not just about access to sport, but creating an ecosystem, the conditions for kids to be able to become their best selves through sport. And a coach, mentor is an essential element of that. And I think, not about the skills and drills of a particular sport, but more in terms of the life benefits, almost a surrogate to a parent in many cases. I'll use one example really quickly of a young man who came through a football program. We support the Southern California Falcons, and he was embedded in the negative statistics that perpetuate Black males in particular. His father was in prison for murder. His mother had been physically and sexually abused, and they were homeless for a time. And the Falcons is a football program, but it's more of a community, and really bringing male coaches as mentors to help Kylan Moore, was his young man's name, really overcome the odds in life, and show him to a pathway to lifelong well-being, be it scholarships to high school. He ultimately got a scholarship to Mars College, internships to help him develop an understanding of his ability in finance, in economics. And despite these obstacles that Kylan Moore had, he was able to graduate college, TCU in Texas, but he went on to become a Rhodes Scholar. So really breaking those barriers through that coach-athlete relationship. But I might add that it's not always just in the coach as a team coach, but the work that I'm also involved in Pope Francis's Sport at the Service of Humanity, the global movement, to really bring sport and faith back to humanity. And one of, I think, the ways in which that movement is helping to bring sport and faith back to humanity is through its Global Mentor Program, in connecting individuals across the globe with young athletes in various parts of the country, I think, to develop that adult-child relationship that is so critically important in terms of helping to guide and navigate our young kids through the immense challenges that they have to face in some of the circumstances that we find both here in the United States and the work we do locally, but certainly in the involvement of the work that I've had with Sport at the Service of Humanity. So those are a few of my reflections in terms of Dan's question. I hope I got to the heart of it. I'd be open to hearing what others might have suggesting. I know Play Like a Champion is on the call as well, and does a lot of work in this area, particularly as it relates to parents.
Yes, I don't know, Christine, if you want to say something regarding this, what Renata just said.
Thank you, Santiago and Renata. Hello, bravo to what you are doing. We are just so impressed with your work, and it's so valuable and needed. Play Like a Champion supports coach and parent education so that sports can be well done, so that the coach mentor that Renata was talking about truly does make a difference in a life. We also are very involved in what we call a team for every child, and that is creating spaces within neighborhoods of concentrated poverty so that more children have the opportunity to play. In children from low-income families are half as likely to play sport than children from higher income families. And so as a church, we believe deeply that we have a moral and social responsibility to address this. We have incredible sport organizations in our Catholic youth organizations across the United States that have wonderful resources and provide quality sport opportunities for young people. And yet many of those organizations make their participation exclusive to just children who are part of Catholic schools or Catholic parishes. And so one of the tangible ways we as a church can address this issue is open up our sport opportunities to all children, to every child. So that's something we would definitely encourage. I also, Santiago, I hope you received this. We just published this book, Play Like a Champion. We're following the Vatican's lead to elevate the culture of American sport. And we can put a link to our webpage that talks about this book. We propose in there, based upon the Vatican document that Castro released in June of last year, is that we create an American sport apostolate with 4 action plans to open sport, make it more accessible and more developmentally focused. And they're very actionable items that any sport organization can look at and embrace.
Thank you, Christine. Yes, I received it last week. They told me as I'm at home due to my knee surgery. I haven't it with me yet, but they told me that the book arrived. So thank you very much for sending it to me. And I would like to remind that what I said at the beginning of our session, that as we are in our last meeting, I encourage all of you to share with all the participants your personal point regarding concrete proposals for the future of sport in 1 minute, 1.5 minutes, if you feel that you could share useful initiatives or concrete proposals that you are already taking on in your field that are realistic and achievable. I think it would be very interesting to share it with all of us. Now, I would like to ask all the speakers, what are the biggest challenges you face when you try to start projects like this one? For example, Renata, when you are maybe as you are the biggest organization of the three of them, what are the biggest challenges you face in the peripheries, maybe in the communities, when you try to put in practice projects like Play Equity, Equity Fund, and so on?
Yes, thank you, Santiago, for the question. I think a couple, and I'll keep it brief because I'm interested in hearing from the other speakers as well. One is an awareness of the inequities that exist. I think, as our last speaker talked about, the fact that sport is integral to education, not just in terms of life education, but actually that connection to school, to learning. In a way that we find has become, much more separated here in the United States. And so I think for us, it's raising awareness that play is not a foregone conclusion, as it was when I grew up, and that access to sport is limited. I think the other, and I made a note, and I think it was Christian that says it, is I think that there's a lack of understanding of what our moral and social responsibility is to help those on the margins. I think that the focus, I think our speaker from the Bobsled Federation, I forget his name, my apologies, talking about a more frugal games. I think the money and the value that you see driving in sports globally have really got us away from the sense of community and togetherness that sport, the essence of sport really is about. And so I think it's awareness, to the inequities that sport isn't a bygone conclusion as it was when I was growing up as a child, or many of us were growing up as a child. And I think the other is really an acknowledgement of our moral and social responsibility to come together as a community to make our communities, our society a better place, and really undergirding sport as a way in which to model that behavior, I think are the challenges that we face.
Thank you. I don't know if Jaime, you want to add something regarding this idea. Oh, I saw you wrote me you wrote me a message. He says, I don't have any specific proposals, but I have an idea regarding the challenge we are facing, about how much it has been done from the educational and social aspect, but it's not appreciated in the way of high in the high level of competition. Yeah, I don't know if you want to add something else to what Renata just said. We can hear you. Sorry, we cannot hear you. You have to activate your microphone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sorry. What I've lived here in Chile, which is obviously not maybe an example of sports culture, but I can see it in the way my experience directly with the tennis pros in today's living, that there is a lot of effort, there is a lot of understanding, there is a lot of investigations done. Everybody believes in the goodness of sports, in developing character, in developing identity, in inclusion, in all the things that we've been listening, not only today but during the whole webinar. So much of that is recognized, but when we go into the area of developing a player, we forget that. There's not, the focus is in how am I gonna get this kid to become a pro? And what are the benefits that we all gonna win if he becomes a pro? And we project that process into like a machine. And slowly, not only we are hurting the development of that person, but we are not guaranteeing any good result at the end of the development. So that's why I liked very much what I forget the name, the representative of the Saint Jean Paul II, Daniele, where he mentioned that not resilience is not the word. We have to find a situation and an opportunity because of the pandemic, and there is an opportunity. We don't need to change FIFA. We don't need to change the Olympic Committee, but we need to work into them because who's going to be against against all these principles? Everybody is going to agree with us. Now, how can we educate? How can we relate to them? Everybody's going to win. No, there's nobody going to be losing from this. Mm-hmm. But we need to find a connection because the message that professional sports give is contradictory to what we're doing at level of this foundations, schools, parishes. That's my concern. How can we work on a net that can have an impact so that also the professional game speaks and shows all these values?
Yeah, I would like, thank you, Jaime. I would like to ask Juan also about how do you face these challenges in Mozambique, especially in a third world country where the situation even sometimes is lacking of the most essential resources. How do you face this challenge to put in practice sport, to form, to educate children in a safe environment?
Well, I think we rely a lot on the communities because, as I told, we start working with parishes, but then in very short term, the government of a province became interested in the program and started an initiative to train the teachers at schools with this program, with football. So I think we rely on the communities and also in the interest of the teachers and even the political authorities that see the advantages of this kind of formation, and we support them, especially the teachers, to train and to keep every week having the workshops, of course, when it is possible, not now, but I think they appreciate the advantages and the benefits of this formation, because I'm speaking of state schools, not Catholic schools. That's the point. These are valued as human values. These advantages of this program, and they do value the sport as a means of formation, not only of the transmission of content, but also formation of citizens. But it is a challenge we especially work in the rural parts of Mozambique. That's why Celestino has so much problems to connect to internet. But it is, I mean, all the communities and also people in the government uh, are aware the advantages of this kind of program.
Yeah, thank you, Juan. I would like to give the word to one of our participants, Scott Bailey, who is the director of the Catholic Youth Organization Athletics for the Archdiocese of Seattle in the United States, who want to share with us briefly two projects, two best practices they are doing in his diocese.
Yes, thank you, Santiago. I hope you can hear me all right.
Yes, yes.
So at the end of each game in CYO in Seattle, Washington, in addition to the post-game cheer and handshake, we have both teams come together for a Play Like a Champion Today wristband exchange. And we work with Kristen at Play Like a Champion to get these. It's not an MVP award or given to the player who scored the most, but we ask our coaches and players to look deeper at the cardinal virtues that we strive to develop through sports. So fortitude, justice, prudence, and temperance. And we ask each team to identify a player on the opposing team who lived out these virtues in their competition. So it's a powerful opportunity that we take advantage of to help frame the sports experience around these virtues and celebrate the ways by putting into words and specifically naming them how sports are building character. And having done this year after year, it is now an expectation and a part of our organizational culture. So Play Like Champion band exchange. The other best practice that we've been working on for a number of years is we offer a CYO high school basketball program specifically for players who don't play on their high school basketball team. So knowing that the opportunities are limited to play high school basketball, varsity, junior varsity, or even the C team level, we have over 30 teams from our local parishes that compete in our high school basketball program. Additionally, a local juvenile detention center competes in our league as well. And they've been playing with us for over 15 years. So as the residents at the center aren't allowed to travel away from the facility, we have our teams visit their facility for one game a week. And our kids enter through metal detectors. They get a real life glimpse into the faces of the kids that are on the margins who are serving time. They play and the games are generally well contested with the teams from the center often winning. And when we get to playoffs, if the team from the center are eligible, we go out to their facility for the playoff games and including the championship game if they make it that far. And there's nothing about our program that excludes them from participating. And it's also an eye-opening experience for our teams, visiting the center to get to compete against kids that aren't too different from themselves, just with different circumstances in life. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. I would like to also, I received a message from Alessia Cambi from Italy that she makes a proposal also maybe to share and to discuss all together. She talks about create and enforce the culture of sports ministers in all pastoral fields or in all community fields, involving all the communities and let know sports values and use it as a tool to evangelize and to grow the community. And she asked, can be a way to approach those who do not attend? Is important to involve parents on kids training, teaching them what they can do in the backyard, or to educate them on health issues like eating correctly, and it's an opportunity to get help, but also to educate adults to sport values. I don't know if Juan, Jaime, Renata want to comment on this. I think that in the past sessions we have been talking about the importance of parents and to be not to bring children to sport, but to be present also during sessions, to make a place for them to be part of the training sessions of the competition, so they can also create this bond on sport values and to also to learn themselves in the first place.
Yeah, Santiago, I can offer some perspective on that question. You know, and I reference the Southern California Falcons as an NGO that we've worked with in the past, and Coach Keith, who created as a founder of that program, and just an exceptional human. You know, when we talk about the role of parents, you know, I think the role of parents in the context of youth sport is to really just be the child's champion, not to be, you know, the coach. So I think it is a matter of, you know, after the game, you know, not necessarily going into what you did wrong, what you did right, if you lost or you won, but simply asking a question of, did you have fun? You know, did you make, you know, a new relationship? So I think as Jaime was speaking, you know, about, you know, the importance of, you know, really educating the youth and creating a relationship between the coach and the parent, that the parent is augmenting the character and the values that we ultimately want that young person to emerge from. So I think the role of the parent needs to be different from the coach, but not any less important, but really bringing the values of fun, engagement, enlightenment, joy, back to the game. And then being able to share with them the perspective of, you know, winning with grace and weathering defeat in a way that you know, come back stronger, and then aligning those character values through sport, you know, through their daily lives. And so I think that's a more appropriate role from our experience with our NGOs that parents can play in the work that we do.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know, Juan or Jaime, if you want to add something to this.
Well, maybe Santiago, if you allow me. I think that you at one time did mention strongly how can we bring volunteers into the equation, and all of us here, I think we have mentioned the fact that the family and the community and these are all volunteers. We have a lot of volunteers. I think I'm coming back to my first thinking, you know, related to the high performance and the pros. We have a different mentality, different view. We look at the base of the individual as the reason why we do sports. The professionalism is looking at the exacerbation or the potentiality of the winning of a high performance, and they forget that high performance needs a good human being. And that difference between what the volunteer gives to the kid is so valuable. To receive a kid in need, and you welcome him and you open the doors and you take him for what he is, that makes him grow so fast, much more than hitting the ball in the right way for the forehand and the backhand. And those are the two different lines where sports are not getting together. We need to find a way that these ex-pros or these coaches look into the reality that a good person is going to be a better player, is going to be a better pro later on. The exceptions, like you take Rafael Nadal, Roger Federer, etc., those kids that everybody like to emulate, and to copy, there are exceptions. They're really not around. They're not the result of any good technology or any method, or the best school is somewhere. They're just exceptional. And the opportunity to bring the volunteers, as you say, we need to have those volunteers win a space in this other area, in the area where people are trying to become better athletes. I agree with you. I agree 100% with you with the volunteers, 100%, because they give the basis.
Thank you, Jaime. I don't know, Juan, if you want to add something to this.
Yes. Firstly, as I think every educator and people who work with kids, we are aware and we expect to have an impact in the community and the family. And these are human values that we promote through sports, like respect, effort, working as a team. So these values that they learn here, they will use them for all the aspects of their life. And we think that impacts in the family and communities. But I would also like to highlight the importance of networking as we work in this, because in Mozambique, for example, we are able to do all this work with the support of World Vision Mozambique, and also a network of universities that help us to improve the way we work. And also, I was it was very interesting to hear Christine bringing the idea of going far from out of our churches, right, and bring these opportunities to every children everywhere, maybe from different religions or cultures, and that is very important. Remember what Celestino said in his testimony about the prejudices that he saw that were being left behind, like a very typical one, the one that the children that are reluctant to play with the girls. And when you change things like that, you know it, you have a an impact in the community. It might be very small in the beginning, but you know you are making an impact. So networking and this kind of working the human values are very important, I think.
Thank you, Juan. We are already passing the 2 hours of this last session, so I'm sorry that I have to close this session with a very brief conclusions I would like to share with all of you. Only before giving the conclusions to this webinar series, I would like to say that Christine has shared different information on the chat available to all of you. So if you want to know more about what Play Like a Champion is doing, you can follow the link that she has shared with us. And now, as I said, we are now closing this webinar series entitled Sport Rethinking Tomorrow. And I would like to finish with some ideas we have brought in these 4 days of discussion, reflection, and contribution that have made this session a very rich environment, in my opinion, of ideas to fight for a more human-centered sport and with a view towards God and the better of our society. And I would like to summarize all of this in 4 numbers, which is 4 sessions, 3 values, 2 projects, and 1 goal. And I start with these 4 sessions, very intense sessions, full of comments. Comments and ideas that maybe wouldn't be easy to say all of them, but I would like to make a summary, starting for the first day when Mark Nesty said about the fact that athletes are not detached, that are too part of the world. And this pandemic probably has shown us that sports have had to come to a halt, and this is an opportunity to develop new ways of viewing sports, not only something physical, technical, tactical, or psychological, but also a vehicle for spiritual development. And it's something that we have seen along these sessions. Also, the inactivity, the inactivity induces physical and motor changes, motor damage in children, in adults, and also in the elderly people. And sooner or later, this will have an impact on a public health level, and also on public budgets. And Gianpaolo Montali, in his testimony, underlined the importance, the importance of social and relational aspects of this pandemic on sports, and the fact that sports imply respect for the rules, specify roles, and also the educational aspect of sport that cannot be forgot and must be safeguarded at all costs. On the second day, we had Father Kelly and Wolfgang Baumann from TEFISA that help us to go into the deep of the First Vatican document on sport, giving the best of yourself, because we, as the church, agree that there's a lot to be done, but also a lot that the church can say and do to improve the life of peoples through sport. And the interest of and closeness to the world of sport is part of the pastoral aims of the church and of our dicastery, which has the specific mission of accompanying and supporting lay people, families, and young people, like Cardinal Farrell said on the first day in the introduction. Because to our dicastery and to the church in general, the educational value of sport is very important. Sport is an extraordinary instrument for the integral formation of the human person, and the Vatican is compromised and it's wants to work on this way. Diane Castillejo's testimony confirmed it also when she said that sports are one of the greatest gifts God has given us, one that can strengthen the mind, heart, and body. And through sports, God teaches us that there is hope, that we must not give up. And our desire is to remind that sport, above all, is a way of growing, of developing each one capacities together with others. And this new start can be an extraordinary opportunity of change for the better. As Cardinal said, we must reflect on how we can restart. And the answer is that without values, without putting the human being at the center and towards God, we will all simply and mechanically pick up again from where we left off and run the risk of repeating the same old patterns, making the same mistakes, and falling into the same mindsets and habits that have proved wrong and now are outdated. And on our third session, I personally discover myself as a bit as an excluder, as Timothy Shriver said, and I think that it's important to remind what he said, when he invited us to think, when was the last time we changed our mind, we changed our heart? We live so often rigid in our positions, and we have to see beyond sports to think how we can develop a more inclusive sport in our communities through leadership, through education, and promoting physical and mental health through sports in our communities, to create common places where excluders and includers can be together in an encounter of celebration to change the life of so many people. And the fundamental essence of the family in the development of the people and children in particular. We have been talking also today about about the risk of today's children who are already at a very young age, see sport as a competition and not as a game, as a play. And as we said, parents are vital in the inclusion of children in sport in a good way. And it's our responsibility to open spaces to them so they can be active part in sports. Sport must be fun above all. And not to forget, at least to remind to our athletes that the best performance is your best performance, not anyone else. That giving the best of yourself, as the title of the document, is to offer all what you have for your team, for society, for God, to achieve the crown of righteousness, as St. Paul said to Timothy. Christina Gangemi and Alessandra remarked that we need to remind ourselves every day that in God's eyes, everybody is precious, and valuing others, we reinforce the idea that sport really has the power to change the world. But we need to believe that. We need to really believe in ourselves that sport has the power to change the world. Today, and during these three wonderful initiatives, we could draw three values that are, in my opinion, essential for the restart of sports and to rethink the future. And I think they can be the three key words to put in practice new initiatives after the pandemic. The first one is inclusion, integration. And I would like to quote Pope Francis in one of the last general audiences on the 13th of September of this year, when he said, we will never be able to emerge from the crisis that has been highlighted by the pandemic mechanically, but knowing that even the most sophisticated means able to do many things are incapable of one thing, which is tenderness. And tenderness is the very sign of Jesus' presence, approaching others in order to work together, to heal, to help, to sacrifice oneself for others. And inclusion starts from each one of us. The importance to drive a positive change, to use sport to help others and create change physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. The important to forming the formators to make this idea, this dream possible in a long term, and a safe environment for everybody to play, to explore, to grow, and equal access. The integration also, the inclusion means integration at all levels. And I want to call to all of you who are part of associations, to sport organizations, who are pastoral ministers in your different communities, to overcome self-referentiality. Many times we used to think that my organization is the best, that others must do as I do. And I think that it's important to think that union on the value that union in diversity, that a problem is happening in many countries, and it's that we think that our idea is the best and the only one who can succeed. And we have to think how to work with everyone because we are all necessary in sport. Pope Francis in that general audience said that a fair and equitable society is a healthier society. A participatory society where the last are taken into account just like the first strengthens communion. A society respected which is much more resistant to any kind of virus. And lastly, to create stable ties with other institutions and realities, even when we don't share 100% of their programs with governments, with schools, associations, communities. I think it's important to integrate, to include everybody, all the stakeholders to make sport better after the pandemic. Second value is formation, the value of forming the formators and give an integral formation to all youth and sport pastoral agents to reach everybody. I like to say that there's a research study from the International Olympic Commission, which says that 95% of Olympic values are Christian values. So also it's an opportunity for us Christian to show how sports are a means to vehicle formation on Christian values in society. And do not despise the importance of human and Christian formation while playing or practicing sports. But without forgetting, as Professor Vanisaka said on the chat before, that the importance of sport is not to create a Christian sport, but being Christians in sport. There is no Christian sport. It's just that we as Christians, we try to excel in sport. And so to work on how to be Christians in the world of sports. And lastly, this third keyword would be sustainability, because I think that we cannot do useful things, but things with utility. So try to enhance non-profit realities, which give an added value to the society. To look for new managerial models where it is given importance to the value of the things in the right measure. And to remind that free is not the same as no cost. And here I remind what Jaime said about volunteer and the importance of these gestures that enable progress in a society, a family, a neighborhood, or a city. Like Pope Francis said, all of them is to give oneself, to give, which is not giving alms, but to give from the heart, a gesture that distances us from selfishness and the eagerness to possess. Lastly, I would like to mention, I mentioned the 4 sessions, the 3 keywords. Now, the 2 projects after these webinar sessions will be, we are already working on an international congress next year on sport and fragility in the Dicastery for Laity, Family and Life. Will be an international congress where we would like to talk about sport and disabilities, but also sport and marginalization, sport and inclusion, to talk about where we have failed as a community and where we are strong as a life-changing experience. Also to know what we can teach and learn from others from this aspect. I think that this International Congress on Sport and Fragility will be very useful, especially after what we are experiencing now during the pandemic. And the second project is to create an open work group where we can share common challenges, worries, initiatives, best practices about sports ministry, and also on how we can share common values on society through sport and on the sports community. And lastly, to end this conclusion, the goal where we started these webinar sessions, which is rethinking the tomorrow of sport. Will sport become better after the pandemic? We don't know. We have to change for better. As Cardinal Farrell said on the first day, we must reflect on how we can restart. Without serious reflection, there can be no improvement, no innovation. So I encourage all of you to follow this webinar on a local, regional, and national level, so we can together work on how we can restart in a better way. And I would like to finish thanking all the speakers, thanking Renata for his presence here today, thanking Juan and Jaime and all the participants, all of you that have been here with us during this month, these 4 sessions in October. I think that a lot of ideas has come during these sessions, and a lot can be done. So I look forward to work with all of you. I would love to be in contact in the next few weeks with all of you and see how we can make a better society through sport. And I talked too much already today. I thank you, Renata, personally, for your presence here today. Thank you, Juan, for the effort from Mozambique, for being with us, or appreciation also to Celestino for the effort and the testimony. Jaime, thank you very much for your presence and your testimony as always. Thank you to all of you. Please stay safe. God bless you and see you soon. Bye.